Welcome to Getting Heated, the place to debate and discuss all things surf related. It's a good looking lineup today. First up, is it time to see more surfers riding different style board designs in competition? And has the increasing amount of airs made competition too predictable and less exciting to watch? Plus, the biggest shocker from the first half of the 2021 season is up for debate. Finally, we are answering the hard question: should the Surf Ranch be a CT stop going forward? Now, over to a pair of straight-up legends, Mick Fanning and Taylor Knox.
Hi everyone, and stoked to be back here on Getting Heated, especially with one of my best mates and all-time favourite surfers in Taylor Knox. Taylor, welcome.
Thanks, buddy. Good to see you, brother. Happy 40th, buddy. 4 decades.
Oh, mate. Feels like 1,000 decades right now.
Oh, I could only imagine what your head feels like after hanging out with Parka and Dingo. I mean, and all those other fools that you call friends, man. I'm only jealous because I wasn't there. I would have been on that dance floor, which is hard to get me to do, but your 40th would have done it.
Next subject. Got some topics to go through today, so let's get right into it. Let's not waste around.
Let's do it. Let's get heated.
There's been talk of surfers riding different style boards at the Jeep Surf Ranch Pro, but not many take that risk. Should there be more competitors riding different board designs in this competition?
I think the Surf Ranch is the perfect place to ride different equipment. I think if you look a little bit deeper than what's actually on the surface, people are riding different equipment. People are riding different boards varying from the right to the left. I know Owen Wright, last time the event ran, he rode something so short. He actually stole one of Wilco's boards, which was a little stubby sort of thing. And now Jack Freestone's just come out and just said, look, I'm not even taking a normal board. So I think we're going to see more different equipment, but depends how different you call different, Taylor. That's going to be the change on it all.
I agree. I think there should be a contest where you're riding different equipment, and the Surf Ranch is a perfect spot. Like a twin fin at the Surf Ranch would be amazing. For guys, they're probably trying to get their head around, will I get scored differently? And they shouldn't. I mean, it should be a purely performance-based. It shouldn't matter what's on the bottom of your board as long as you're ripping. And I think with these different designs, you'll see more speed. I mean, you could do this a couple different times. I think the public would love it. That's the main thing, is it would draw a lot more interest to that contest, particularly where it feels like there needs to be a little shakeup there for sure.
Yeah, the wave is pretty predictable because it's the same thing every time it takes off. You know, is it worth throwing a round or something in the actual Surf Ranch where everyone has to ride at some sort of different equipment, you know, reduce a fin, or that could be a fun little spot for the fans to get really involved. Maybe even spin a wheel just for one round. Maybe the round doesn't count, but everyone gets to see someone on different equipment. But yeah, I guess coming back, there is a fair bit of different equipment. I think you're going to see a lot of people on the dark art surfboards, EPS surfboards. Kelly might try and ride one of the flat earths from Aquila Aper again. So we'll see what's going on, and yeah, hopefully someone shakes it up. As I said, Jack has already come out, said he's going to ride something different. So we'll see how different old Jackie boy gets.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching Jack surf. I want to see them do like the Rip Curl has the search event and they don't announce where it's going to be. I'd like to see the tour do an event. Let's say it was J-Bay. 6 weeks before J-Bay, they go, hey, everyone, you have to ride, I don't know, a Bonzer or a twin fin or something different. And everyone has 6 weeks to get their equipment dialed in. And then that's what they're going to have to ride. I'd like to see the world's best get challenged in a different way, where they're forced to go and figure out different lines on a wave that they already know, but on a design they really aren't familiar with. I want to see them being more challenged.
Is that just being old?
Maybe.
When you're on tour and when I was on tour, that's all we rode was performance-based surfboards, because the fear of not performing at the highest level, scary enough to not ride different equipment. It wasn't until like our later years on tour that we started playing around with different equipment, but we never brought that into competition. So I would always love to see people on different equipment, but is it the most highest performing equipment? are they already on it? Is that what the thruster is?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you for the last 40 years, you've had the world's best surfers all riding the same design, one design thruster. Imagine if the world's best surfers all spent 1 year on a different design and how refined that would become. I mean, let's face it, the best designs in the world usually come from the best surfers doing R&D on them and then going back and making all these refinements, which then goes to the public and they benefit from us, test driving this stuff. So I want to see is like, what if we took a design that anything but a thruster and have the world's best, like give their 2 cents to the shapers and start whittling down and refining, because I'm sure all these different fins and boards and would all get a lot better with the world's best riding them. I mean, hell, look at your wave at Snapper the other day. That twin fin wave at you at Snapper was ridiculous and people were so hyped.
Yeah, well, I've only just started riding it since I've been off tour.
Yeah, but it was refreshing.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And I think we're going to see some refreshing surfing here at the Surf Ranch. So, yeah, let's see what people bring. And, yeah, we can give kudos to those who take risks.
Yeah.
When we return, has the increasing air game made competition too predictable? And the biggest shocker of the 2021 season is up for debate. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Getting Heated. Our next subject is all about airs, and one man who doesn't know about airs is Taylor Knox. Taylor, how's the knee going? And once it's back, will you be busting airs all over the joint?
I am going to be busting airs. The knee is feeling good. I'm just waiting for the air show invitations to rain down on me.
Has the increasing amount of airs in competition watered down the excitement and made it too predictable to watch?
I do think there has been so many airs that it's completely watered down. You have Instagram, you have the contest, you're just seeing so much that you forget some really incredible airs because there's so much and it's so diluted. My thing is I'd like to see some less airs and some more technique and style in between them, because a lot of times what I'm seeing is they're telegraphing the airs. So it's coming.
Yeah.
Some airs stand out. Medina's at Newcastle stood out. Yagodora's at Rottnest stood out. And I think Carissa Mora's at Newcastle was huge too, especially for the progression of girls surfing. I mean, really, really amazing airs now just become commonplace. So it's like, maybe they could mix it up and, do some double hand back, huge carves like Dane Reynolds did at Haleiwa that 1 year, or something different, because it's just too much. I'm like numb to it, and I shouldn't be numb to it. It should be held in a little bit of a different standard and held back a little bit, just so when you do throw one, it's more of an impact.
Yeah, look, I think what's happened is that the airs have come commonplace because you've got guys like Gabe Medina, you've got Italo Ferreira, and they're taking off on closeouts and doing an air and minimum of getting a 6.5. And I think that's where the judges sort of have to start looking a little bit at the point where, okay, how high are they actually getting out of the water, or are they just spinning off into the flats? I felt like Italo was a bit guilty of that in the first couple of events, where he was just spinning straight off into the flats, and the minimum 6.5 just straight like that on a straight closeout. And so kids are seeing these things and just going, well, that's how I get scores, that's how I'm going to win events. So I feel like what you're trying to explain here is something that the judges will have to control. But I think airs these days are just like having a forehand hack for us back in the noughties. That's something that it was just part of the equipment. And look, I was always guilty of someone who everyone would say I'd do the same turn over and over again to get scores. And yeah, look, I was guilty of that. I knew how to get my scores. So I think that's the way that the surfers are looking at airs these days, and that's how that's how they're getting through heats.
And you can't blame them. If they're going to get the score, they're going to keep doing it. So there's going to need to be a different philosophy on the tour. They're going to have to come together, the surfers and the judges, and are going to have to make a decision like, hey, we need to, for bettering the sport, we're going to need to do things a little differently. We're going to score you guys a little differently. We want to see not just the air, spin to flat to claim. Like I felt like I watched 150 of those during the Aussie leg, where they were just taking off on closeouts basically. Wave selection didn't even matter at all. And granted, they were surfing beach breaks, and they weren't surfing snapper and they weren't surfing bells. I just don't want to see the hyperactivity between taking off and the air. I want to see some more flow and some more technique and style. It seems like a lot of times it's just take off, fly down the line to the end section, boost. And, you might miss a section or two in between there.
Might be a few years before we see that.
So far, what has been the biggest shocker from the first half of the 2021 season?
For me, it's just the injuries. We've got so many people that have been injured this year. Obviously, there's the big ones of John and Coco Ho. Ace Buchan, broke his back pretty much. Michel Perez has hurt himself as well. And Lakey Peterson, there's so many injuries, and I hope that these people get back quick and can reassess and maybe change their training up a little bit.
I'd agree with you that the biggest shocker has been the injuries for sure. And, I'm not sure about sitting, they had to sit in a hotel room for 2 weeks, and they were just chomping at the bit once they got out of that room. I mean, taking 2 weeks off, even though they couldn't help that, your body kind of tends to relax. Like when you're on point, you are kind of consistently surfing every day, even a little bit, or training. And I think that might have played a part into it. And also the fact that people are of split minds right now, maybe. They're thinking Olympics, they're thinking tour. I feel like that's a big discussion. I think there's a couple guys that you expected to do well, or better, like Julian's for one. I expected him to be, not have the struggles he did in the beginning of the year. And then a guy who completely shocked me was Morgan. And I've never watched the kid surf, but it was impressive. I thought that was a bright light, a bright spot there. That was cool.
He did. He shocked the world. Everyone thought when he went into that first heat against John, he was just going to get smoked, and he ended up doing the opposite. And then for the next time he came up against John, everyone was like, no, it's not going to happen again. Sure enough, it did. So I think he shocked the world, and then to go on and back that result up with a final over in Rottnest was huge. What do you expect coming into the last half of the year? Is there anything that you're really looking forward to, or is there something that you think's going to jump out at you?
Well, I was really looking forward to John being in the mix, for the world title, and I'm still hoping that happens. I think the way the tour is going to end this year is going to be interesting. Really, it's cool that they're doing something different. But I mean, I'm thinking what if a guy wins 3 to 4 of these contests? He's in the lead by a country mile, and then he has an off day at lowers. Does Morgan come at the end here and he could win the world title? He could. It's very possible for him on his first year on tour, which that would be crazy.
I think that's definitely possible. Yeah, look, I think the final situation at the end of the year is going to be really, really exciting. For me personally, I'm looking forward to Barra. I hope that it's absolutely fine for everyone, and it goes back to how it was when we had the search event there years ago. Oh yeah,
the tour it just needs that. It needs that, especially after the beach break run we had, and because as you know, waves like that expose people and expose their weaknesses or their strengths. So J-Bay exposes people, Chopu exposes people, and I think Barra is going to, expose some people.
If you're 100% healthy, I'll throw you in there for a wild card.
I take it.
When we return, should the Surf Ranch be a CT stop going forward? Yep, we're actually going there when we come back.
So Knox, after 20 years on tour, was there a spot that you just despised going to? There wasn't your least favorite place on tour?
Well, it's kind of a general statement. I hate waves that have backwash. So, it's strange that where was that? Praia
de Mole.
Praia Mole, yeah. Seemed like every heat I had there, I had a 2-foot wave coming at me as I was trying to ride it. So I just don't like backwash in general. I don't like it at any spot. That's my thing. What about you?
My least favourite wave was something that I've brought up many a times. It's no secret, but the Margaret River was always it troubled me, that wave.
Yeah, it kind of does your head in. That end section on the right, that thing comes like at you. You think you can hit it. Sometimes you go to hit it and it just disappears, and other times it mows you over like a semi truck. It's so weird. It's just the oddest wave. It's this really, I call it like a rock hopper wave.
Exactly.
Should the WSL Surf Ranch be a CT stop going forward?
I don't think the Wave Ranch should be a CT stop. I think unless you do something completely different, like we talked about changing equipment, or I just don't. I mean, all my friends that watch are bored. They're all like, they said this is the most boring event to watch because the wave doesn't change. And that's what's so amazing about the ocean. It's like you are never going to ride the same wave twice in the ocean. You're going to ride the same wave every time in a pool, unless they can have different, they do have different modes and stuff. They can mix it up a little bit, but it's an incredible wave. It's such a good wave to surf, and it's such a good experience when you're doing it yourself. But to watch it is, I don't know, I find it repetitive, and I can see that the guys I can see them when thinking on the way, they want to do something different, but they just don't have the section to do it. You can see that they're trying to mix it up and trying to do different stuff, but unless they can control the wave better and make it do different stuff, I just don't think it should be.
Matt Biolas came out just today and was like, okay, I feel like the wave pool or the surf ranch in general should be on the tour, just due to the fact of how much people are using these wave pools. Maybe it's a thing of just changing the location of what wave pool they use. There was talk about in Japan running the Olympics in a wave pool. So there is merit there for the wave pool. I just feel like, as you said, it sort of gets a bit repetitive. Matt brought up another great point where, the ride goes for a minute long. Maybe we can shorten that. Maybe you can just take off, halfway and do it that way. But if we're going to have a wave pool event, I'd love to see it at a different wave pool each and every year. I think that would be exciting, especially somewhere like the BSR Ranch or whatever, where you can change. You can have 3 different waves just by the press of a button. I think that would make it incredibly exciting, and it would put the surfers in a different light as well, where they would have to do an air, then they'll have to rip a wave, and then they'd have to get barreled. So I think that could be an exciting one to go and look at. But look, I think the surf ranch could do with a little bit of a shake-up. Maybe it's changing the wave, but I do feel like the wave pools are such a big part of surfing, and so much equipment gets changed in there that it's almost part of the tour now.
I agree. If you want to rotate it and go to different venues and different technologies, that's great. I'm all for that. I just think that at this point, we want to see something different. We've had bells taken away from us this year, and snapper, and even though it's not a good thing, we're going to be pumped to watch them next year. It's gotten us a little bit more excited to see these spots that we've been watching consistently for 30 years. Now it's like, oh yeah, you know what? I kind of miss snapper. And so the whole thing of mixing up and moving, even in Europe, you can move around a little bit, it'd be great. Move to different spots. Like, make the tour not so much a search, but more of like at least rotating.
A little bit more unstructured.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think the staples that we have on tour, like you mentioned bells, you mentioned places like J-Bay, Chopu. As a surfer, when I was on tour, when those events came up, I would get super excited to go and surf those waves. And I think that's what you need when you are on tour. To see the people that have pulled out of the surf ranch, it's sort of a bit like, are people not really respecting that event as much as, as they do in others? I remember when we were on tour and, if you weren't able to move up in the ratings or whatever, a lot of people would pull out of Brazil. And you don't want that for an event. You want everyone in that event. So everyone gets challenged and everyone gives it their best. That's the biggest part we want on the tour, is that everyone's involved and everyone's giving 100%.
Yeah, you're right. You don't want people losing interest at the end, and you're right. That happened a lot. And when we were on tour at the end of the year, because people are like, well, I'm not going to really move up in the ratings and I've already qualified, or I'm just not going to qualify, so I'm not going to go. I mean, maybe the back end of the tour has got more of those rotating events where at least people are like, well, even if I can't qualify, I'm really interested in going to the spot and checking it out. And to have one event, it needs to be more than one event changing location a lot. I want to see a wave like St. Lou. Like when we were on tour for a few years, you'd either see a guy in a right-hand point break or a hollow left slab barrel. But you never saw a guy on like a long point left. Some guys, I'd be like, how do they surf backside? I haven't seen them surf backside on a long left in forever.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's been brought up before for sure. A nice rippable left would definitely be a welcome part of the tour. And but Knox, always a pleasure chatting to you. Hopefully this isn't as bad as our heats that we used to have on tour, and they just didn't fall apart. But
it's funny how we both fell apart.
Mate, I think we're both too nervous, but mate, great having you, and thanks to everyone watching.
Yeah, thanks, brother. I really enjoyed being on here with you. Happy birthday. Let me know when your country will let me in again so I can come down.
Sounds good. Peace out.
Woo.